The Egogram model. This model was developed by Jack Doucet, who was referenced earlier in the intros. And it is a way to look at this phenomenon of psychic energy. And again, as Graham was saying, you know, this is a metaphor for, this energy idea is a metaphor. But where is our energy at any one place, at any one point in time with respect to the 5 dimensions of the functional analysis? So we want to look at how much energy might I have in the critical parent, nurturing parent, adult, natural child, and adapted child. I didn't say this, but the adapted child, I did say that it responds to parental influences. And the adapted child can be compliant, that is, being ingratiating, really wanting to please, working to get strokes or affirmations through doing whatever is needed to do that, at one's own expense even. And the adapted child can also be rebellious. So whatever the parent says, I'll do the opposite. Or whatever the the parent figures around me say, I'm going to do the opposite. Sometimes the rebellious child is confused with the natural child. The natural child is spontaneous and free in energy, and is self-centered, self-focused. I want what I want. So when you see a child who's developing and they're asking you, what do you think? You know, do you like this? Do you like that? Do you like what I just did? That's free child energy. I want attention. I want strokes. We all want and need strokes. That's free energy. And rebellion is about reacting to a parent stimulus by going against whatever is said. So even if it's good for me, I won't do it. Okay, so and the reason I'm telling you that is as you think about yourself, you want to notice how much energy do I have in my free child at any particular point, and how much is in my rebellious child. You want to say anything else about that before I go to the? Okay, that's fine. So, the way I look at this is that talk about this is at any particular moment in time, we have 100% psychic energy. So, and of course, moments move and moments shift. So what we do in the workshops is invite people to look at how do my ego states function in different situations. And for this exercise, we're going to ask you to do this with yourself, a little introspective exercise to see how you would draw your own ego states I'm going to pick 2 periods. But I also will say we can also do this around how do my ego states work when I'm in cross-cultural situations? What differences do I notice? And also on different variables. So I might be comfortable with racial differences, and I might not have developed comfort yet with gender differences. So we are in a process as human beings of growing and changing. So it evolves over time. Okay, so having said that, what I'd like you to do, you see this, the drawing here is an example of how one can draw your egogram. When I used to do this, we would talk about Archie Bunker. You remember that character? Does everybody know who that character is? I'm not dating myself too much. But Archie Bunker had a big critical parent, right? And a big adapted rebellious child, right? I think he showed nurturing parent in relation to his daughter in the TV show. So he had some nurturing parent, though probably a little lower than that one, and I think less adult than this drawing, right? So more energy in nurturing and more in natural child, but not so much adult. Okay, you get the idea? So what I'd like you to do is to draw you're going to do 2 egograms. The first one would be to draw an egogram at your favorite time of day, whatever that is for you. Think about your favorite time of day. How much energy do you have in your critical parent? How much in your nurturing parent? How much in your adult? How much in your natural or free child? And how much in your adapted child? And then the second one is draw your egogram when you are in a stressful situation. Something isn't going the way you wish it were going, and you're stressed out. Okay, all right. So let's hear a couple of comments from the floor. Any reflections on what you learned about yourself or relearned about yourself?
Well, we thought it was interesting because there were three of us sharing, and pretty much we were almost identical in how we mapped ourselves out. Under stress, we all had higher critical parent and higher adaptive child, but at our favorite time of day, we were more in the nurturing parent role or more of the natural child role. We were laughing about whether or not her adult was higher than her adult all the time is higher than my adult all the time.
I'm just thinking that under stress, what we need the most is our adult ego state. And it's new habits that we have to learn as a result of learning the theory.
So how to stop myself and keep breathing and keep thinking and feeling at the same time. So that's why becoming conscious of that allows me to take a breath and put energy into that adult ego state, which then reduces it in the others. And becoming aware of that pattern is the purpose of this activity.
There was a similar thing over here that these two had. It sounds like the same thing as y'all.
Mm-hmm.
I had one that was under stress. I put that my natural child goes way up, and I maybe I'm misinterpreting the category, but I was seeing that as like the losing impulse control and just like going towards self-soothing things and like eating a lot or like distracting on Facebook or like when I get under stress, I just go, I lose the ability to mediate that.
Interesting. What do you think? Is that both rebellious and free? I think it might be a little bit of both.
I'm just kind of quite interested that if we panic when we're in a situation, and that's a natural, I'm led to believe it's a natural thing to do. It's a defense mechanism. And yet you're implying that we have to think our way out of that in this situation. Is that right?
Well, I wasn't meaning to say you have to.
Well,
It's
you
an
can.
option. Yeah.
You can. and I'd sincerely love to. And now I'm panicking. But I just wonder how that is kind of like that nature, it's how you cope
Survival
with that.
instinct.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, don't you think?
So as I look at the space where I was stressful, one of the things that came to mind is if I'm in a position of power or not. So I think if I'm in a position of power, my adult goes up. And if I'm not in a position of power, there's a tendency for it to go down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that relates to the whole idea of we've been talking about that part of the journey for us from our historically excluded places, our places where social oppression is what has helped shape us. Becoming conscious of that is really important. Yeah. They talk about how do I not give my power away? And part of it is recognizing that that's a setup for me to do that. Right? It can be a script.
I do have a question about imprinting, so to speak, or recording our parents and absorbing them. What about people who very intentionally don't want to be like their parents and have made a conscious effort not to be like them, absorb them, be in their ego states?
Mm-hmm. As we talk about script analysis and about how we change, we can update our parents' ego state. So it's not that we're bound to those messages that we catch forever. That's what we're talking. It's becoming conscious of all of this allows us to have different choices. And in our notion of both and thinking, it is the case that many of our scripts are like old pajamas, and they may hop up again under stress. So it's a both and. So I can say, for instance, that the script I had around don't feel anger, I have largely changed, and there are some situations, like this current political climate has re-stimulated some of the old messages, some of the old pieces that I thought I had let go of. And I think that's the whole there's a whole developmental idea too, and that things shift with developmental. So I think it's a both and.
So you're saying both the parental and child ego state scripts?
The decisions that I make in my child ego state about all that stuff I caught, which we'll be talking about tomorrow,
Yeah.
are in part of me. And I can make new decisions as a grown-up about how I be with all of that.
Okay.
The internalized parent ego state is often the part that we're least conscious of. That is, we will often act the way one of our parents did without being aware of it.
And about the question about what if you don't want to be like your parents, I think that the child ego state needs some kind of parent ego state to rely on to make decisions. And sometimes they don't take the parents, but they'll take some kind of dogma as a substitute for the parent. And then there are those who did not take a parent at all and become sociopaths and don't have any morals and are just ruled by their adult and their child. And they're very smart people, but they don't have any morals that come into the equation in terms of decision making and acting. So those are, I think, two of the consequences that can happen from rejecting the parent because of the oppressiveness of the parent or the craziness of the parent that was raising you. But people who hold on to dogma and beliefs, either politically or religiously, very tightly, and if you threaten that, it's a great threat, is because that's what I'm holding on to make sense of reality. And it's a great threat to threaten somebody's parent ego state.